This is a short introduction to using iPeer for peer evaluation here at the University of British Columbia. My name is Morgan Reid. I work in the Faculty of Land and Food Systems. There's a building block in Connect that you can activate from the Tool Availability menu called iPeer. iPeer is a peer evaluation tool. When you have activated iPeer, which is usually off by default, it'll then appear in your instructor's view under Course Tools. And clicking on the iPeer will bring up the simple Create a Course interface. Before we go any further, there's something we need to do to use iPeer more efficiently. We've got a Connect course and we're in it. We've set up the tool. But this step here about creating groups is essential to making the most of the Connect iPeer connection. Connect has great tools for setting up groups, and iPeer is all about student peer evaluation within groups. So why not set up groups within Connect first and use the built-in porting tool so that they go straight into iPeer and you don't have to set your groups up separately in iPeer. We'll look through the process of setting up and running the iPeer tool, creating an iPeer course, they call it, an evaluation rubric, which is an evaluation template. We'll use a rubric format. There are other formats available. And then an event using that rubric is an instance of that rubric associated with specific student groups and over specific times. It's essential to let students know how to use it, and then you can put a link to the iPeer tool in your Connect course. So let's go back to the Learning Management System Connect course and make sure we have groups set up. A quick and easy way to set up groups is just to create random enroll group set. It'll use up the students that you have in the course and it'll create the number of groups you ask it to and add a serial number at the end of the group name. So I'm going to ask it to set up 3 groups with none of these other tools. Now if you've already got groups set up, of course this won't be necessary, but I thought it'd be worth going through so you can see what the process is. We have some groups set up. Looks good. Now let's go back to our iPeer tool and get going. An iPeer course is actually just a section that you will then own that's associated with your Connect section. The benefit of this linkage is that students who are registered in your course have access to the iPeer course. It is also necessary that students be part of those groups when this is created. The group creation tool in Connect, as well as the push groups to iPeer tool in Connect, is a snapshot in time. So changes to enrollment and group membership in Connect. Changes to enrollment won't change group membership in Connect unless you do it manually, and you need to come back to this tool and push the groups over. I'm going to go to Manage Course in iPeer in just a moment, but I'm going to first push the groups to iPeer. By clicking Push Groups to iPeer, I use the built-in linkage between the two so that students who are enrolled in this course will then have secure access to the iPeer course groups. I'm going to go over to Manage Course in iPeer. And this is my course level specific to this sandbox course. This is the course level. I have a few other courses in iPeer, and if you see this list at any time, you would just click on the course that you want to work on. LFS Sandbox is the course at the bottom. I'm going to click on that. Well, I have groups, but I don't have any evaluations set up. So our step right now is to create an evaluation template. There are quite a few options here. We can create simple evaluations, rubrics, mixed evaluation surveys, etc., and use some emailing tools. I'm going to go to rubrics right away, checking to see whether I've got any created already. Here's one that I created previously. It's a simple rubric, which is a matrix of criteria. I'm going to go through the process of creating one though. Clicking on rubrics gives me a list of rubric evaluations. And if I want to create a new one, a little text up here on the right says add rubric. I can create a new one. I'm putting a pretty distinct name there because the list of rubrics that you can potentially see is quite large, so you'll want to be able to search your rubric name. Levels of mastery is the left to right number of columns, and the number of criteria is the number of rows. I'm going to just reduce it to a 3 by 3 to keep it really simple, and I'll keep it private for now so it's available for me to edit. A 0 mark, that's part of my plan for this rubric. Students may decide that another participant in their evaluation receives a 0 on one of the criteria. The rubric editing detail comes up. And you can fill in text for any of the areas and modify both the levels of mastery and the criteria as you see fit. Once the rubric has been made public, that is shared with others, or is used in an evaluation, you can't change these. You would have to copy the rubric and make a copy based on it, which is easy enough as well. Up to you what the criteria are. It's not necessary to fill in specific comments for each grade value, but you can choose what you want to put in there. If you change the number of marks available for a specific criteria, for example, criteria 1 here is only worth 1 mark, maybe I want the whole thing to be out of 3, or perhaps I would like the criteria 1 to be worth 3 or 4. And as you can see, each time I change the mark value on the right, the mark assigned to each criteria cell in the matrix adjusts automatically. I'll keep it at 2. The total marks update automatically, and I'm going to save this rubric. Most rubrics that I've seen used do have more complex levels of mastery and criteria, but I'm passing over that detail in order to make it easy for us to work with. That's somewhat what it'll look like to students. Noting something about the interface that you want to explain to students later. The click to expand bar allows students to put evaluations, enter evaluations for each of the students in their peer group. It's not an entirely obvious part of the interface, and it's worth showing them how to do that. We have produced a PDF that makes it easy to use. This is just a preview. We know that that rubric is there. It's still private. We can edit it if we want to. I'm going to go back to evaluations here. Our home page in this iPeer is courses. I'm clicking on the relevant course that we want to work on. And now that we've created an evaluation, that's that rubric, we want to create an event for it to happen so that it's time for the peer evaluation to be connected to students over a specific period of time and to their groups. noting that you have to choose the event template type and associate it with a rubric. The word preview is a little strange here. I actually want to find the rubric that I just created, and usually you can find them in alphabetical order. Is that the one I was working on? There it is. Okay, so I found it in the list, noting that I have to choose rubric. It's in that list, again a bit difficult to search for, and I used preview to confirm it was the one I was after. Time to set up a few details. Choose whether you want self-evaluation and comments. Decide whether to release the results. And set some dates. There are a couple of steps to do here in terms of dates. So first of all, we set up the event and the dates. It's a pretty good calendar interface to set it up. And you can use your Shift key to select multiple groups, or on a Mac, the Command key to select only specific groups. Your choice of which groups to select. On a PC, you'd use the Control key to toggle on or off individual groups. There is something to say about deciding whether there's enough motivation for students to fill in peer evaluations, and that's something up to the instructor to design. Penalties add another administrative layer. There are other ways to encourage students, of course, to do it. This evaluation event, using our demo rubric, is now ready to go, except that students don't have a way to connect to it. So you'll want to show students how to use it. A couple of ways of doing that. One that's handy is to connect them with a PDF or show them that little bit of the interface or demonstration that we just looked at that says this is what it's going to look like for the students. I jumped there just now to look at your management interface, and that's not what I had intended to do. However, we want to see what this might look like to students in the preview mode of the rubric. I'm going to use a PDF and mail that to students normally and show them what the demonstration video tells us about student view, and also this PDF is helpful in being able to point out what their student view looks like. So again, emphasizing that they would click on the group member to expand their view, and reminding students to click on the other group members to expand the view for the evaluation for that group member. This is ready to go, but not in Blackboard. For it to be ready in Blackboard, students need to be able to see it. A little bit of a gotcha, bit of a tip here. In Blackboard, you may be accustomed to adding a tool link to the left side. Can you do that here with iPeer? There is no tool link for iPeer. And it's the same thing in a content page. You may be accustomed to be adding things to content pages, like links to iPeer using the content creation links. And there are ways of building content that might be web links, tools, and even in more tools, we don't see iPeer in Connect. So the iPeer tool isn't fully integrated that way. However, the iPeer evaluation site can be created as a web link. Let's just review how to do that. The evaluation generic website login for iPeer at UBC is ipeer.elearning.ubc.ca. You can even skip the login. And to add a web link, similar to what we have already showing on this page, you would build content, add a web link, set a few parameters, and that will create a web link. This web link exists only on this content page for students to see. If you would like a web link to appear on the left-hand menu, you can create a web link on the left-hand menu, and students will be able to see it from there. There's an old one I'm just going to remove. And of course, clicking, modifying these links over here doesn't eliminate anything other than just the link itself or the tool link. So here we see peer evaluations, and we can now have a quick look at it from a student's point of view. And a student will be able to enter Connect, click on the peer evaluations link, and log in and see their peer evaluations that they're supposed to do. They're currently not available right now because we set the availability dates to be a little bit later. And that is a summary of using iPeer here at the University of British Columbia.